Hello and welcome to the C Team. I'm Mike Curley.
I'm Frank Curley.
And today we're talking about, well, not video game conventions in general, but specifically a video game convention. That's the actual name, held in Parsippany, New Jersey this past weekend for the third year running. So, just give us a little intro on that, Frank.
I did a Renaissance Fair one. One of the performers also volunteers for this particular convention, got us free tickets, and I was like, really? Only in Parsippany? I'm like, awesome. Why haven't we been there yet?
Yeah, it's been running for 2 years, and I talked to one of the guys who organized it, and he said the reason they did it is because most of your video game conventions are either in New York City or Philly or like at least 2 or 3 hour drive away.
Yeah.
So he and his friends got together and decided, let's put one in the middle of North Jersey. It's really convenient. It's like 20 minutes away from us. It's kind of small as things go yet. There's not much in the way of big name celebrities. There was a couple, attractive cosplayers who had their own websites, but I kind of like the smaller ones more than the bigger ones. I've never been to Comic-Con, and I don't really want to because it's just a giant press of people. It's like a zombie movie.
It is. See, me and my girlfriend went there once, and I was an idiot and forgot my ticket. So Mike here gives me my ticket on the condition that I have good old Kevin Conroy sign an art book of his.
Art by Alex Ross.
Specifically of the animated series, and
yeah.
So it is chaos. It is just bodies.
Yeah, anything everywhere. You want to see is like a 2 hour line.
Yes,
it's like pressing big. It's 100,000 sweaty nerds all in one place, and it's not my idea of a good time.
Yeah.
Apologies to any sweaty nerds who are listening.
Yeah. We include ourselves in sweaty nerds, by the way.
It gets the air conditioners. They work hard in these places, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, to illustrate the lines, there was some point where I was just sitting down to rest, and I sat down next to a door, and then a line formed behind me. There was nothing on the other side of that door. People just thought it was the next event.
It was the line ride.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like the smaller ones because you have a lot more freedom to move and more opportunity to see the things you want to see. MagFest was kind of like this a few years ago. It's gotten bigger. But for instance, there was a tournament, the first year I went to MagFest, I entered into the Smash Brothers tournament. I got my ass kicked. But it was fun. It was something I could do over the course of like an hour, and it didn't like impact my day. Now you have to sign up like a day in advance. And it's like an all day. It's a huge undertaking. Whereas at a video game convention, me and Frank entered a Power Stone 2 tournament. There were 5 people total. For a while, it was just going to be me and Frank.
For those born after 2000, Power Stone was almost like a full 3D Smash Brothers for the Dreamcast
without the character recognition.
Yeah, without the character recognition. It was a fighting game at heart, but it also had platforming. You pick up weapons. Wing crates of people.
It was
bombs,
like Smash Brothers,
basically. That's a game we both played the hell out of as a kid, but
haven't played since the Dreamcast went under.
Yeah, and yeah.
But anyway, like this tournament, it was a small thing. It was just the 5 of us around this one TV, and we had a blast with it because there wasn't like any pro gamers there. There wasn't like this huge scene around it. We were all just 2 of us were trying to remember the game. 3 of us had never tried it before in our lives.
Yeah, and we both lost somehow.
Yeah, somehow the 2 of us lost to someone who'd never played it. It came down to a 3-way tie because it's a 4-player game, so it came down to a 3-way match. And I think me and Frank were so busy beating up on each other that the third guy snuck in.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I like the small convention kind of thing. It means there's not much to see. I was there for about 3 hours, and that was about it.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of like retro gaming tables in the vendor room. I saw everything from like Atari, some Famicom stuff. I picked up 2 of the Star Ocean games. But there was a lot of quality stuff there.
Yeah. And yeah, it'll get bigger. It's hoping to get go with I think the Meadowlands. I think.
Yeah,
what they're
I was
called.
talking to the creator. I actually wrote a story for this for the record to go with a video I did. Anyway, I was talking to him. He said this year they expected to have more than 3,000 people attend, and parking was already a nightmare. So next year they're looking to have it at the Meadowlands in Secaucus, a bigger venue. So hopefully that will alleviate some of the parking pressure in particular. That's a very alliterative there, and help the event grow. I wish them all the best. Pardon me. Like I said, I like the small convention. I don't necessarily want it to be like Comic-Con size eventually, but I think I like having something in North Jersey that you can go to that I don't have to buy a bunch of hotel passes for and spend vacation time to get to.
Yeah, this is always how these things start. Like like New Jersey Ren Fair, that started out pretty small, but they made smart choices.
MagFest started small. There was one in Philly. It started small. It was called VG Expo. I think that went under a couple of years after it started.
See, I've heard of one Renaissance Fair, the Philadelphia, where they basically blew all their budget on on the mountain from Game of Thrones.
Oh, Hafthor Bjornsson?
Yes, that really Norse guy. And
the most Norse man on the planet.
Yes. And, that wasn't the only problem, but they didn't really have a budget since. So yeah, you have to start small.
Yeah, you got to start small, and you got to develop your own personal fan base. You need swag, you need T-shirts, you need a logo, and you need things that people are going to come back to your con specifically for.
Right. And and a few other things. Some things you wouldn't expect from a video game convention, like video game theme, but a belly dancing show. That was quite nice.
I think that's another advantage of a small show like this. A larger show, you're going to have the bigger named acts and stuff. A smaller show, you can kind of you got to fill the space with whatever you can get. Not to say that these ladies were just whatever you could get, but it's something you're not. They had about a 45-minute set of belly dancing to things like the Gerudo theme from Ocarina of Time, Cosmo Canyon for Final Fantasy VII.
The Chrono Cross opening?
Yeah, the Chrono Cross opening, which I think had a belly dancer in it. Or am I thinking of Vagrant Story? Vagrant Story had a belly dancer.
Yeah, no. It had someone who dressed, might as well be a belly dancer, but beyond that, no.
But anyway, it's something small and local that, they were given the stage. There was a decent size, maybe 20, 30 people. They had a good time with it. It ended in a dance-off where a Hammer brother won the belly dancing contest. Yeah. And, it was a good time. It's something you wouldn't really see, something like MagFest or Comic-Con. You would need like a big hour-long known named act to book spot.
Yeah.
Because there's competition for it. Here, you have, and these ladies, they're called, what was it, the Gerudo Vagrants?
I think so, yes.
They do not have their own Twitter, but they are on Instagram. If you hashtag it, you can find them.
Yeah. And,
best of luck to the both of them. They clearly enjoy what they were doing. They had fun with it, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah. Let's see. Of course, we had, the tournaments.
There's Power Stone. There's, I think, Smash Brothers.
Of course.
There's always Smash Brothers.
Yeah. I think there was a Golden Eye, because why wouldn't there be?
Yeah, there's tournaments of all kinds of games, all the games that you played when you were like 12 and 13. We started playing GoldenEye. We got it in 97 or 98?
We got the same year as Ocarina of Time, so that's 98.
So we got it in 98. It's been a family tradition at our house. I always win. Well, except when I don't. Frank beats me sometimes.
Yes. So yeah, and casual and pro tournaments.
Yeah, they had different classes of tournaments, which I can understand. You want to give everybody a chance to compete and have a good time.
Right. I always preferred the casual myself. Yeah.
I've never been good enough for the pro tournaments.
Yeah, and I Smash Bros. Is a great game, and I respect anyone's skill in if they do a pro tournament for it, but I always felt it was a little too serious.
Yeah,
for my taste.
Smash Brothers is a game where Pikachu can pick up a baseball bat and club Link over the head with it.
Yes.
And these people, they take it so seriously. I've always avoided the online Smash community because it's kind of insane. Yeah, Tears. Forget Tears.
Come on.
I play Link because I like Legend of Zelda, and I like hucking bombs and occasionally hitting Frank as my teammate.
And I like Marth because I like swords.
Yeah, so that's all you need. It's to the point where the creators, they put in the tripping mechanic just to spite tournament players.
Yeah, Sakurai is kind of a jerk.
He's a jerk, but he has a vision for his game, and his vision is not, super serious tournament. It's get your friends together, maybe have a few drinks, and throw Pikachu at Mario.
Yeah, this is a small point, but sometimes it makes TV tropes a bit of a chore to look at.
Yeah, well, we could do our own hour just on TV tropes. That's its own thing. Let's get back to this.
Yeah, like I said, small point. And
So a video game con was conceived explicitly as a retro gaming convention, which most gaming conventions edge toward that anyway.
Yeah.
Unless it's like one of the big like E3 expos or something, it's always about the retro stuff. So you had arcades, you had machines, you had a lot of indie games. It was kind of like it was a big on the nostalgia factor. So like you said, GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, I saw both of them there. I saw Contra for NES and Super NES.
One arcade game I always kind of look for because as far as nostalgia, this is always specifically arcade for me. Gauntlet.
Yeah, Gauntlet was made for arcades.
Yeah,
the original quarter muncher.
Yeah, not even the original one. Back before 8th grade, for some reason I was on like Gauntlet Legends and then Dark Legacy kick. And, the game doesn't stand up to anything.
No, technical wise, especially compared to like action games today,
even at the time,
it is a brainless brawler. Yeah, you walk around, you throw axes and stuff.
Yeah,
there is
for like Devil May Cry and God of War, it is brainless.
Yeah, there's no real strategy. There's no like difference between the characters beyond like, okay, when you throw the potions, the wizard's a little better at it. Yeah. But it's simple, mindless fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Well, I think what always makes it for me in that game is just the spirit of it. Like, I love the music in it.
Yeah, it's got kind of that heroic, rousing musical score to it.
Yeah, before, it was, epic fantasy movie music was really, like, codified by Lord of the Rings and all that. You kind of had, like, that faux trumpet that, fantasy films in the 80s and 90s had.
Yeah.
And it just felt right. Like, those listening, look up, like, Valley of Fire, Forgotten Dark Legacy, the music, and, it's a fun track.
Valley of Fire.
Oh, yes. Needs food badly.
Red Barbarian has gained a level.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
We can go on all day, just summoner quotes.
He did not actually summon anything. That still bothers me.
Well, he summoned the heroes.
Yeah, but like that's it. It's like it
did a lot of damage.
Yeah, I suppose so. He could have thrown a Bahamut at them or something. That would have helped a little bit more.
Western RPGs are less about apocalypse causing summons.
Yeah, that's just what the villain's up to usually.
Yeah, and when you look at Bahamut Zero, who basically makes a mushroom cloud every time he comes around,
it gets a little ridiculous.
Yeah,
but yeah, Gauntlet. That's a game that we played on the N64 like forever.
Yeah.
We would spend gobs of time playing just over and over again because there was like really no reason, like there wasn't really variety in the levels. They looked different, but it was the same kind of thing. It's one of these stupider games that we played all the time.
Yeah,
if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, and it just just specifically we just got the PS2 for his birthday. We're at the shore and playing it. I always look for it.
Yeah, it's always a good time.
And now we get to the shops and beyond the whole used games and all that,
figurines and stuff too. That was nice. That was interesting to see.
Yeah, and
I almost bought a Mega Man.
How many? I wonder how many listeners are old enough to remember the Tiger handhelds.
Oh God, the Tiger handhelds.
Who had like a sprite per like.
Yeah, it was
place.
the old LED, not even LED. It was like LCD, I think.
Yeah.
Little LCD screens with like really like it was. I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't even like sprites. It was fixed characters. It was not
fixed
responsive.
poses in a space.
And they would turn on at the drop of a hat. We had a backpack full of these we had on vacation. If the car hit a bump, you heard the intro to like 7 different games start up. And you had to rifle through the 20 different things to find which ones had turned on. And in the process, you'd end up turning on even more of them. And it became like a 20-minute thing to turn everything off.
Yeah, and
then when you went to go play one, the batteries are all dead because they had been doing that stuff.
I remember, there was one for Sonic, which was one of the most pointless.
There was a Batman one, Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, another one that was kind of like, it doesn't at all reflect.
I feel like there was a baseball one, a Tecmo Super Bowl one. Like basically, they were Game Boy games for the kids who couldn't afford Game Boys.
Basically.
Although if you bought as many as we did, you probably would have just been able to get a Game Boy.
I remember there was a Power Rangers one where there was like more than one game.
Yeah, it was shaped like a Game Boy. It had little cartridges. That was when that was the middle step between the Tiger and the Game Boy that we eventually got.
We found the missing link.
Yeah. I think that the idea there was they were going to be more cartridges, but it just did not take off in a way that allowed for that.
Yeah, Power Rangers is one of those things that just like took off in so many directions.
Yeah. I'm amazed. I've heard, I still need to see the new movie. I've heard it's like actually a decent movie to the surprise of everybody, I'm sure, including the people who made it.
Yeah.
Because Power Rangers, it was cheesy, it was fun, but let's face it was not quality TV, at least when we were growing up. It was fun and it was stupid, emphasis on stupid.
Yeah. Like one time we were flipping the channels and we see, the Mega Droid. And then the
Megazord.
Megazord. And completely out of context, we just see this giant foot basically field goal.
Yeah, it made no sense. I'm sure it made just as much sense in context. They were fighting some other giant robot. I forget if it was Zed or Rita or one of the other ones that showed up. Oh, God.
Oh, the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s. And they were a special time. Very special.
Yeah, I don't remember the 80s, although I love the music from that time.
Speaking of Power Rangers, we did see a cosplayer in the new Power Rangers getup, which is impressive. I did not expect it to have enough of a fan base for a cosplay at this point.
Actually, one interesting one I saw on Sunday. We went there on Sunday. Well, first of all, to get this little thing, which we'll introduce in a second. One of those T-Rex costumes, and someone in a like dark jumpsuit, red hair, and a handgun. And it took me the longest time to remember who she was. Then I remember, Dino Crisis.
Oh, God, Dino Crisis.
Yeah.
Regina was the name.
Yeah, she was paired with one of the blow-up dinosaur costumes.
Oh, you mean like those T-Rex costumes?
Yes.
Oh, I love those things.
Yeah.
Those are like my favorite thing on the internet.
Yeah, that's become just like a great running gag on the internet. Just
I love, you see the one, the guy did like the Ninja Warrior obstacle course wearing one of those things. That's impressive. I was watching that this weekend, and like I don't know how they do it. I can't do a pull-up. These guys are like jumping up, like doing. I can't even describe what they're doing.
A balance of muscle and not weighing too much, I guess.
Yeah, that's my downfall probably.
Yeah, actually, we probably should. Well, let's go over this other little oddity,
which I just took a picture of so you can see it eventually.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, it's almost like a Tiger handheld. It's got the same level of graphic acuity, except it's a wind-up toy.
Yeah, it's a wind-up toy. Basically, you have like these 3 or 4 wheels of these different ships, and you control this other one to dodge it.
Yeah, it's got a little steering wheel on it.
And there's a button to basically restart it back to where it starts.
Yeah. Is there a year on there anywhere?
God.
I feel like this is at the latest.
Well, okay.
The early 80s.
Well, I'll read some detail. Tomy, made in Japan. That's all on the back. So it's called Space Dock, part of, I guess, a Pocket Arcade series. So if any of you know at all what we're talking about.
Yeah. If any of you have any idea what this thing is or who made it, feel free to jump on in the comments. It would be nice to get some comments.
Yeah, as with these things, plastic toys from the 80s, a lot of the paints,
yeah, the paint's
off.
faded. You'll be able to see. I got a picture of it.
There's a lap count, which I don't think actually works anymore.
I tried it. I wasn't getting one lap in anyway.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. Like, it probably worked a little better about 30 years ago.
Or 40 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, but, fine, you can have it.
Yeah, the lap count's broken. You paid $10 whole for this?
Yep.
Jeez.
Well, my girlfriend did.
Oh, jeez.
And yeah, I love finding like little toys like that before electronics were really all that advanced.
I'm gonna try it. Oh, I dodged something.
I hope none of you are wearing headphones, by the way.
Yeah, I just crashed.
Yeah. Obviously, there's no animation. You just kind of get stuck there until you restart the thing.
Yeah, I've seen worse toys. I've seen a lot better, but I've seen worse.
One marketing technique one guy did, which I thought was a little mean-spirited, selling Atari games labeled
that's why the lap count doesn't work. It's manual. You just turn it yourself.
Oh. So it's on the honor system, is it?
Yeah, basically. it doesn't actually have an automatic lap count.
Yeah. So, selling Atari games, labeling them as clay pigeons. For those who don't know, clay pigeons.
You launch them.
You launch them in the air, you shoot them. And I thought
bits with a shotgun.
I thought I was like, huh.
That is a little mean.
Yeah.
I could see maybe were they ET cartridges?
I don't think so. Honestly, those are treated more like relics than like abominations nowadays.
Yeah, they dug a bunch of them up from that landfill in was it New Mexico or Arizona or something?
Yeah, actually, watched part of a documentary on that. And yeah, actually, the guy behind it went into like psychology. Like he became a psychologist, after that whole debacle.
Did he he discovered these cartridges and figured, now to understand these cartridges, I need to understand the depths of the human brain because I can't comprehend who made this game. Was that the thinking?
No. The guy who created the game.
Oh, so he looked into the abyss, and it looked back, and then he decided he needed to
the abyss
figure things
home.
out. Yeah, the abyss phoned home. We've gone from E.T. to Lovecraft.
Yeah, and he was actually pretty emotional when they dug everything up, and I think people look a little kinder on the game. It was more the industry at large that was screwing up. A lot of flooding the market, a lot of having a lot of consoles.
It was a crappy game, though. It was by nobody's stretch of the imagination was it a good game, even for Atari games. I've played decent Atari games, and this one is not.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm of issues, and this was more the what lit the powder keg.
It was emblematic of what happened, is what it was.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that was. It was a fun, in retro, to wrap it up, it was a fun convention. I would definitely go again. I've been meaning to go for the last couple of years, but it was always on a weekend where I was going somewhere or had a wedding or something like that. And I'm glad I got to go this year. It was, fun seeing the shows. I wish I had been able to stay later to see the concerts, because that's a big thing I always like about MagFest. There's a lot of good bands there. A lot of them edge toward like heavy metal and eventually start sounding pretty samey. But some of them, they have a pretty good sound. I particularly like the Megas. They do Mega Man music, and they're starting Castlevania music too with their newest album. And they add lyrics to them, so each song tells a story, and they're taken as a whole, like the arc of Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3. Yeah. There's also Power Glove, which is just like really heavy metal. I just like their sound. Some guys, I bought a CD from Super Thrash Brothers. Basically, all the names are going to be puns.
Yeah.
Puns or references like Power Glove. So Super Thrash Brothers, they, as expected, they did everything I recognized on the CD was a Smash Brothers character's theme.
Mario's metal.
It was kind of short tracks, like 3 minutes or like 2 minutes tops. But competently put together. I think if they stick with it and start like doing some embellishment with it, because I like the bands the most that have some kind of embellishment to it. Either they remix it, they put it in a different style, they add lyrics, because just playing it straight, I mean, I've heard these songs before, and I want to hear something new. I want to recognize the music, but I want to hear something new.
Well, which band did History Repeating?
That's the Megas.
The Megas.
That's on their History Repeating album, Mega Man 3.
I do kind of respect them more than most, for the lyrical.
Yeah, not a lot of bands do lyrics. Some do. Some do lyrics. There's also the Proto Men, who on a similar theme do Mega Man inspired music. I don't think they use the music from the actual game so much, but they tell their own like dystopian story of the Mega Man world.
Yeah.
There's also the Super Guitar Brothers, 2 guys on acoustic guitar. I really like their sound. Triforce Quartet, quartet, violin, viola, bass, and them.
Actually, rewinding a bit to like smaller independent acts, like the Belly Dancers. I think Magfest could benefit from having just small like acoustic musicians just in between panels.
Well, they do. A lot of people will set up shop outside. Like there was Trumpet Link, who he did a set with the Triforce Quartet out by the gazebo area at Magfest once. A lot of people will just set up outside, and they have the jam space, which lets people just pick up and jam.
Imagining Sheik teaching like a tune and him just blaring out a trumpet.
You could probably use it as a weapon if Link had a trumpet.
And Sheik's like, what about the ocarina?
But yeah, I like seeing those new acts, and every time I go to Magfest, I try to get at least a couple CDs, either new stuff from bands I've been listening to, or just there's been a couple times where I've just randomly grabbed CDs, bands I hadn't heard yet. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes I get, I think it was like some kind of weird electronica rap thing that I have not listened to since.
Yeah,
might have been Professor Shy Guy. But yeah, there's one I bought after they just started jamming in the vendor area. That was Warp Zone. I forget whether that's actually their band name or the album name, but if you Google Warp Zone video game music, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They were another mostly acoustic group. They had a horns. One group that really impressed me this year, the Returners, who did not just Final Fantasy VI music, but they had a vocalist and a flute, which was a nice touch on a lot of music. And one of my favorite tracks on the CD I have is actually from Phantom of the Opera.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, and they've just put on a very good performance, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again if they're at MagFest this year.
Have you seen Phantom of the Opera?
No, I haven't, but we played that song every year in band.
Well, it's like if Jim Steinman wrote an opera.
That sounds badass.
Yep.
So look up. I should be writing down these names so I can hashtag them.
Well, listen to the thing again. Type it down.
Yeah. So that's another reason to go to these. You get there was a lot of local bands at a video game convention. I looked at the list. I didn't recognize any of them, but I know Super Thrash Brothers is local to North Jersey. They had the Montclair Gaming Orchestra, which is in Montclair. And it's just another way to enjoy the games. I listen to this stuff all the time. OC Remix I listen to all the time because it brings me back. It brings me back to when I was a kid and playing these games the first time. There are some of these tracks I get emotional listening to just because of the games that they're associated with.
But yeah, fellow New Jerseyans, if you want a bigger con, definitely look it up next year.
Yeah, it's just called A Video Game Con. That's the name.
We'll see if we can think of a more specific name. But
honestly, we had a webcomic that was named something on the basis of we couldn't think of a better name.
Yes, on that forum that probably 12 of you of our listeners have been on.
It's down now. It doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, no, it's completely gone?
Yeah, it went down a little while ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
But anyway, so moving on.
Yeah.
If you have a chance, go to a video game con. Go to MagFest. Look for us. You don't know what we look like, so it'll be tough to find us.
So I'm thinking, almost starting like, every other week, like I bring up a film.
Okay, it's got to be films. I I did see this. Yeah, the Mortal Kombat film.
I figure, one we've seen before. This is more just me, catching, my girlfriend up with films she hasn't seen yet.
Okay.
But thinking about cultural, impact, with video games and other media, Mortal Kombat usually the first one that comes to mind.
Mortal Kombat, I want to say, is probably the best video game movie.
Yes.
I would say Sands of Time comes pretty close.
Yeah.
The
closest.
Yeah, and maybe the first Resident Evil movie, which we'll get into. I will rant about Resident Evil later. But on the subject of Mortal Kombat.
So, again, I specifically picked this one because I kind of felt it was kind of a weird jump in popularity, for a video game at the time. Like all these conventions and stuff like that, kids. Yeah, this is fairly new.
Yeah, I would say video game conventions is within the last. Well, MagFest is up to its 13th, I think, 13th or 14th.
So come early 2000s, we started getting them, but. If we really want, some kind of impact, it needs to be, some kind of film or
TV.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat did have a TV show after the film, but it didn't really go anywhere. Yeah, it ends on a cliffhanger where everybody's dead.
Nowadays, I feel the medium is a lot more respected, and it can basically stand on its own as just video games.
It is largely because the people who grew up playing them are now in charge of stuff.
Yep, the geeks are in charge, guys.
Yes, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with the Marvel movies. The guys making them now are not people who are looking at it and saying, "Okay, this is popular. How can I make it? How would I make it if I wanted to like it?" Because they already like it. So they take the things that work about it, and it goes through. So Mortal Kombat, made in 1995, right at the height of Mortal Kombat 2 and 3.
Yeah,
and it worked really well. Part of it is because it had a template already. The game was basically Enter the Dragon.
Yeah,
complete with Liu Kang, totally not Bruce Lee.
Yeah, and it's basically...
And Johnny Cage, totally not Jean-Claude Van Damme.
It's basically Enter the Dragon taking place in Big Trouble Little China's world.
Yeah. And Raiden is directly inspired by Thunder from that movie. And
Shang Tsung is directly inspired by good old Lo Pan.
And nobody appears to be inspired by Jack Burton.
Yeah,
that's a damn shame.
Well, I suppose you could look at Johnny Cage.
No, he's
watching the movie. He kind of reminded me of Jack Burton, where he thinks of himself as the big hero.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's utterly clueless.
But as far as the games go, he was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah,
the game was almost a Jean-Claude Van Damme game, but they lost the license for some reason.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just a whole ton of fun, and like little things I realized, Johnny Cage could have been one of the most insufferable characters ever put on film. Knowing trends, the plucky comic relief that doesn't really do much else.
Yeah, but he was written well, and he got his moments to shine. And he was probably the most relatable character of anybody. Like he was the real character who's like, wait, that guy just turned into ice? What the hell? Yeah, guys, what the hell?
Good for the career, he said.
Yeah, he's kind of smart-assed, and he kind of plays off the other characters, because you have Liu Kang, who's like super serious, you have Sonya, who's super serious, you have Raiden, who has a bit of a sense of humor, but then Johnny Cage is the guy like pointing out, like, this doesn't make any sense. Did we wander into a weird Chinese kung fu movie? Which is actually exactly what happened.
Like Lou, what are you doing? She's like 4,000 years old. So?
Yeah. She looks good.
Yeah.
You got to know her secret. Maybe it's Miller High Life and Johnny Walker Blue.
Yeah. Is that too soon, or are we just laughing about that now?
She was 112 years old. I am referring to Agnes Fenton, a wonderful woman who I had the pleasure of interviewing when she turned 105. That was 7 years ago, and she died a few weeks ago. She credited her longevity to Miller High Life and Johnny Walker Blue, which she had been drinking daily since 1943.
The key to immortal life.
On the orders of her doctor at the time. I am not lying. It's all look up the name, Agnes Fenton. Anyway, back to speaking of immortals, back to Mortal Kombat.
So So yeah, he like one of my favorite moments with Johnny Cage is when he pays Liu Kang to carry his bags.
Yeah, it's just a very quick comedic. It kind of sets up the character, and the Johnny Cage takes a lot of crap in that movie.
Yeah,
He takes a lot of crap, but he kind of deserves it, just a little bit. But at the same time, he rolls with it. He doesn't like.
See, I feel like what movies when you have like an arrogant jerk like that as a character, they either just don't pay for it, or they're like they don't do anything like really to redeem themselves.
Yeah, they're just there just to be laughed at. But Johnny Cage, he has his moments. He kind of comes around. He has like legitimately heroic moments, and even those are hilarious. Like when he punches Goro in the junk.
Yeah,
that's a great moment in cinema. It really is.
And it's a subtle moment because I can almost look at that as Johnny Cage swallowing his pride, because he's doing this to show off. But then he realized that he can't just brute force his way through, so attack the weak point for massive damage.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's something that clearly in the thousands of years that the Mortal Kombat tournament has been going on, nobody has tried that before. Yeah. Gory, he's not wearing a cup, clearly.
Yeah, as Yahtzee Croshaw once pointed out in a review, one of them brings a gun.
Yeah.
Like, what's stopping someone from carpet bombing the...
Well, the guns weren't allowed in the movie because that would have been a little unfair. But, yeah, so the movie is just well put together, and I think it's part of it is the martial arts is one of the best parts of the movie because they cast people who knew what the hell they were doing.
Yeah, they did that pretty well in the games. Back when it was digitized.
Well, the games, they didn't have to talk, so you could just get stunt performers. But in the movie, it's especially key because, if you're making a movie about a fighting game, the fighting has to look good.
Yes.
And not just graphically good. It has to look like these guys really can throw down. And that was one of the highlights of the movie, is they had martial artists. They had people who could really fight. So the fights are very convincing and very visceral. There's not, for a movie based on Mortal Kombat, there is not a lot of blood.
Yeah.
But it's still, there's a lot of heavy impacts, and it looks like they're really beating the snot out of each other.
Yeah. And, it managed to be fun and without being like Street Fighter level of cheesy.
Yeah, it was fun without being cheesy, and it was serious without being overly serious. It had some drama to it.
Yeah.
It had some, gravitas to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it recognized what it was. It's a game. It's about a game of these guys throwing fireballs and ice and spears and lightning around. And there's only so much you can take that seriously. Yeah. And it had a sense of humor about itself.
Yeah. And another thing, not only were the actors, legitimate martial artists, but they were into the roles. Like for my sins, I watched Valerian. And the biggest weakness of that film was that the two leads were not into it at all.
So sort of like Twilight.
Yeah.
Well, Twilight had a bunch of its own problems. Besides that, for one, it was Twilight.
Well, the female lead was kind of put into like stock, super serious action girl, and I had a feeling she was just there for the paycheck. And you're in a big sci-fi thing. Have fun.
Yeah, a movie is always better when the people making it are enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
It comes through in the performance. It comes through in the little nuances where they get into the character as opposed to just reciting lines.
Yeah, like Tony Stark, offering grapes.
Yeah. Blueberries.
Blueberries.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is someone who clearly is having a great time playing Tony Stark.
Even during the dramatic moments.
He is very much into it to the point it's kind of blurry where Tony Stark ends and Robert Downey Jr. begins at this point. But he's someone who really gets into it. And that is always better for any performance. Any movie that you see is going to be better if the people making it are into it. And yeah, I think that was the case in Mortal Kombat. Especially, I think Johnny Cage, his actor had a great time doing it. And I would like to see more adaptations along that vein. And that's another thing about video game adaptations is that they're, a video game, even your shortest video game, is going to be 7 or so hours long.
Yeah, there could be a lot to squeeze in
It's going
if
to
you're
be
going to...
5 hours long, which is any like the shortest video games are going to be twice the length of the longest Hollywood movies.
Well, most fight scenes in films are not as long as, say, like action sequences in video games.
This is true, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm playing a bit of Dragon Quest 8, and there's a lot of wandering around, a lot of stuff that would never be put in a movie.
Well, even if you took an RPG and took out all the grinding, all the side quests, all the wandering around, you still have like hours and hours of story to get through, hours and hours of character development, which only is going to work if you're going to have to cut a lot out and, condense the number of characters. Like Mortal Kombat was good because they stuck to the core cast. Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage, Raiden, Shang Tsung, and Sub-Zero and Scorpion, they were reduced to cameos because they had their own separate story, and getting into it would have been too much. So you have to, even in a game as bare bones as the original Mortal Kombat, you had to cut people out,
right?
Because there's only so much you have to focus a story in a movie.
Right, and especially Mortal Kombat Annihilation's big problem. Trying to cram in everything.
That was among the big problems. The other ones being just crappy writing and pacing and everything. But for an adaptation, a lot of people, you can't really directly adapt a game.
No.
Not in a movie. You can, if you had like a series or like a series of movies, I could see doing like a Final Fantasy game as a trilogy of movies.
I would actually argue RPGs may be better off being a TV series.
Yeah, because then you have the time to really build it up.
Just from time.
But to create a movie, like Mortal Kombat takes the setting and tells a story, and it tells largely the same story, but it's kind of easier as a fighting game to adapt because there are not like a bunch of signature scenes you want to get in.
Right. There are rivalries that you definitely want to address. Character backgrounds and all that, but you don't have a storyline that you're trying to really like follow. So you can do what you want for the most part.
Unlike something like a Resident Evil game, I actually like the original Resident Evil movie. I think it is a good zombie movie set in the Resident Evil world. I think that's the best thing they could do with it, because then they have the freedom to do their own thing while keeping within the themes, and they can surprise you. Yeah. As opposed to, and I think that's where the best video game adaptations come from, where you take the themes of the game and you adapt it into an original story, or a story that is like fitting within the world of the game.
Well, I found my biggest problem with, one problem I have with Prince of Persia, it was very predictable as someone who played the games. And, you go to book to film adaptation, maybe, readers are going to be, it's going to be predictable for the readers. But I kind of felt no weight to anyone dying, because I could kind of tell the twist at the end.
Yeah, well, that kind of is inherent in the Sands of Time being a time travel thing.
Yeah.
But as a movie, it was fun. It was, there was not really, the plot holds up. The characters are fun and interesting, and the character development makes sense. And I particularly like just the relationship between the three brothers. As one of three brothers, that was like a highlight of the movie for me.
Yeah, how they didn't end up being the jerks.
Yeah, they end up being kind of jerks, but like they
misunderstood jerks.
They're misunderstood, and when push comes to shove, they stick with their brother.
I do feel that there are parts that dragged on the movie. Like I don't really think the ostrich keeper was necessary.
Screw you. He's Alfred Molina, and he was hilarious.
If you say so. I don't know. For me, that was just like, well, what are you doing in this kind of movie?
We're talking about people. We're talking about movies where it's better when everybody enjoys what they're doing. Alfred Molina is clearly having a blast.
Right, but sometimes if someone I feel that character didn't really fit in. Really?
Yeah, there was a little bit of modern political commentary in there, but
going on about taxes.
Well, the taxes have been a thing forever.
I know,
people have been mad about taxes forever.
I know, but still, I don't know. I could never just relax and enjoy him really.
No, that's your loss.
Yeah.
But he didn't ruin the movie. He had some fun bits. The knife thrower guy was fun. And I think that was a good adaptation where, it took kind of the rules of it, but you had to adapt it because, the game, you're alone for 90% of it, and it's hard to make a movie with like one character alone unless the point of the movie is that character being alone, like in Castaway or The Martian.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. And I actually kind of like how they married the two princes into one character. The original prince, who was just an orphan who married the princess and then became a prince, and then the Sands of Time prince.
Yeah, a lot of times what they'll do with a movie is they will meld all the best bits. Like that's what Marvel keeps doing. They take the best parts of their character and put them into one amalgam to create kind of like an ultimate version.
Yeah.
And I will say, what was I going to say?
Well, that's a good question.
Oh, on the topic of a good adaptation, there's been talk back and forth for years about a Metroid movie, and that's one they're going. I would like to see. I would like to see ideally CG with Sigourney Weaver doing the voice.
Yes. Or the one from the Metroid Prime games. What was her? I feel like a jerk for forgetting it. Tara Strong?
No, not Tara Strong. It was. You keep thinking about it. I'm going to keep talking.
Okay.
That's going to be a tough movie. You got your phone. Look it up. That's going to be a tough movie
I'm
to
looking
make
at the thing with them
because Metroid is an inherently solitary game. All of the games, with the exception of Metroid Prime 3, Fusion, and Other M, she's wandering around this world with nothing to keep her company except for things that want to kill her.
Actually, one movie to look at for that for solitary acting, maybe Conan the Barbarian, because there's a good chunk of where he's just kind of traveling around, just kind of acting with just motions and reacting to the environment. I mean, not to say that
It's
the whole
not
movie
the
was
same kind of thing. I feel like
he practically finds a Chozo statue in the ground. And to me, maybe it should focus on more solitary. Not all the time.
I'm
but
just saying
definitely.
that's the thing. Conan, he still goes to cities, interacts with people. He gets a small party of adventurers, D&D guys he meets in jail or in a bar. Whereas Metroid, she's alone. From the time you land on the planet to the time you leave, it's just her, which it can be done. It would be very experimental, but I think what you would need to do necessarily is maybe do something closer to Metroid Prime 3 with the other bounty hunters that you run into, or even join her on the missions. Or another option, give her ship some kind of talking AI, or have her something like, you're going to kill me for this, but something like Other M, where she's working with, people from the Galactic Federation, something where she has somebody to interact with and play off of.
Right. I think what we're looking for is an audience character. Someone for Samus is a big science junkie. And, she can explain, every time she's scanning, she's basically explaining it, summing it up in her head. So maybe having a character who she's, explaining certain things to.
Yeah, someone to explain things to or to question her. Or, someone to bring into the world with her. Because Samus, from the first game, she's like this mysterious, badass world. She's a known character in the world. She's not coming fresh to the world. So she would need somebody to interact with, to explain what's going on from her personal purview and kind of give weight to the character. I think, I love the Metroid games, but, they are not huge in the way of character interaction.
Well, I will defend Other M where it is interesting seeing her trying to work with someone else.
Yeah, it's an aspect of the character you don't see often.
Yeah, whether or not they did it well, I'll leave that argument for some other.
They didn't do it well.
Yeah, okay.
There is not an argument there. They didn't do it well.
Yeah, I just watched some cutscenes. I was like, what in the hell? But I think there's definitely potential, for her having to like grit her teeth, grit her teeth and like, fine, I'll cooperate with this.
Yeah, they're, part of the problem with Other M is the whole values dissonance between the East and the West, and we can get into that another time.
Yeah,
as far as movie adaptations of games go, that's one where I could see them going the Sands of Time route and taking the world that the games are in, but casting her in a story that takes place maybe more in the more civilized parts of the world, or gives her a squad to work with, something that like she can play off and you can see the character development in her and in everybody else.
Yeah. I will say, with, video game, movie adaptations, like, I don't really hold my breath for, movie adaptations of video games. I kind of feel it's strong enough as a medium.
It is. The main downside of the video game medium is that if you're not good enough at it, you're not going to see the rest of the story.
Well, too bad. No.
Although now there's Let's Plays and stream and Steam, not Steam, and streaming services that allow you to see a game that you may not be able to beat. Right. It replaces me looking over Frank's shoulder when he's playing Dark Souls or Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's not like Dark Souls, a lot of games offer like,
Easy
quote,
modes.
story modes, like they prefer to call them, because not everyone's a whiz at games, but they like the story, and I can respect that.
Yeah, I mean, there are games I'm not good at. There's games Frank's not good at, so it helps. So on that note, that's some place where I guess the movie adaptations are not strictly necessary, but I can see doing movie adaptations still as a way to reach new audiences with the world, or to expand the story in ways that would not work in a game.
Yeah. So another interesting thing with the director of Mortal Kombat, who's not really announced all that often, Paul W.S. Anderson. Maybe you haven't heard the name, but you probably definitely heard a lot of his films. Mortal Kombat, for one, Event Horizon, a lot of the Resident Evil films. And
the Resident Evil films.
Yeah. And of all things, an upcoming Monster Hunter film.
I guess he's kind of getting into like being the video game director, maybe. Well, or has been, I should say, because the Resident Evil films have been going on for a while. And he's probably a better choice than some. Like, there was talk about a Shadow of the Colossus game, or Shadow of the Colossus movie, attached to either the director or writer of The Legend of Chun-Li, which that's another one that's on my list as, yes, Internet, you are right, that is a crap movie.
Yeah.
It's a short list so far. It's that and The Last Airbender.
Well, here's kind of why I'm a little interested in Monster Hunter as a movie, because there's kind of a story, but for the most part, just get your equipment, find this monster, beat the crap out of him. And I wonder, since Mortal Kombat never really had a narrative. Well, it didn't have a narrative at the time. They do now, but
it had a narrative at the time. It just was not really fleshed out, except for that screen at the end when you beat it as whoever you beat it as.
Yeah. So I maybe with less constraints, maybe if he just could come up with his own characters, because the protagonist of Monster Hunter is a blank. You basically do whatever you wanted with that.
Is there a side character that is important to the story, like Septim or Alistair?
Well, okay, so in the two games I've played, 3 and 4, there's kind of like a sidekick support character. In the third game, they're like these little, like island fetish thing. You know what I'm talking about, right? The
Moai heads, those guys?
Yeah, something like that. Like these little coconut being things. They're called chakalakas.
Of course they are.
Look it up later. And they healed you. They ran distraction with monsters. They even attacked the monsters sometimes. And in the fourth game, they had little cat people.
So what you're saying is there's not a specific character who shows up as like something like an Alistair, who is like the named important character.
No.
Okay, so there you would probably have your blank character filled in with, I guess, the most generic
Well, yeah, there are
Or what you do is you do a team of characters.
yeah. Well, you have village NPCs, and some of them are named. In a lot of cases, the village chief is just the village chief for some reason. But then you have actually one funnily named character. He's called Nico Means Cat. And it's Nico parentheses means cat, and he always insists that it means tiger. So it's this insistence that just became part of his name.
The game is taking taking something out on him. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not a game that takes itself too seriously. There are a lot of in jokes. They're just it's kind of like Dark Souls if it learned to cheer up a bit.
See, that I might be interested in playing.
Yeah.
So I can see a movie working there where it's going to be like set in that world. Maybe have like a squad of monster hunters to kind of cover all your bases from the different character builds. And Paul Anderson, as long as Mila Jovovich isn't in it and isn't allowed to like take over, I think it'll be okay, because that's my biggest problem with the Resident Evil movies. The first one is good. The first one's a good movie. It's a good zombie movie in the Resident Evil world. The second one is good until Mila Jovovich shows up and steals the movie. Poor Sienna Miller. She spent time and effort trying to play Jill Valentine accurately. She studied the movements so she could do it right. And then the entire movie goes to Mary Sue Alice, who reads like a checklist. She's a new character. She outshines the canon character of Jill Valentine. She has all these superpowers that were not in the original. She uses the virus that kills everybody else to give her psychic powers. It's like a checklist of all your Mary Sue cliches, and it's fitting that like one of the later movies, one of the best moments is when she gets all that taken away and Wesker beats the snot out of her. And so that's where it can go wrong when you embellish too much from the games.
Yeah.
It became fan fiction.
Yeah.
It became bad fan fiction, I should clarify, because I've read some good fan fiction.
Yeah.
But I have it down in the outline as don't get me started, so I shouldn't get started.
So, yeah. Between... let's see, how long we've been... For quite a while, actually.
Yes.
But, yeah, so Paul W. S. Anderson, he... maybe I'll give Monster Hunter a look. Again, I'm not holding my breath about it. If I hear it's bad, then I probably won't even bother. But, I guess we're not desperate for a movie, but if you're going to do a movie, do it right.
I think that's really all you can hope for with anything is what you want. Is you want people involved with it who know why the games work.
Yeah.
You want people involved with it who preferably who just like the games to start with and, know the characters, know the world, and can believably embellish on it.
Yeah.
So I think we're probably good leaving it there.
Yeah. So yeah, games have come a long way since the old days.
But it's good to celebrate the old days, and it's good to see them getting popularity to the point where you are getting believable and decent video game movies.
Yeah, and it's great that's basically come of its own. From the old days where I would have to hide the fact that I play video games, to nowadays where I don't care.
Yeah, now it's normal. If you don't play video games, you're weird.
Yes, you freak.
So here's to you, all you weirdos. Be sure to tell me how much I'm wrong for thinking anything positive about Other M, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yep. Good night, everyone.
Okay, shut up. Or I'll mute your mic.
Okay, so it'll just be you talking to yourself for an hour.
I've done it before.